The following is a presentation of KSL Sports. First and 12. A total roundup of BYU and Utah football and the expanded Big 12 Conference. Subscribe to the First and 12 podcast. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio.
Hour number 2 is off and running on this, I should say, Football Tuesday here on First and 12. If you miss any part of the show, you can subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, also the KSL Sports app, KSL News Radio app, so many different ways to listen to First and 12. So we appreciate all of you for tuning in, however and wherever you're listening. Let's get into our Big 12 power rankings. Let me just tell you, there is a lot of change this week.
The Big 12 Power Rankings. A weekly rank of all 16 programs, from the elite to the bottom dwellers.
Well, it's always a big one when you have your number one team from the previous 2 or 3 weeks, which is where Utah was sitting for us. Tumble down the rankings there. So do we go top to bottom or do we go bottom to top? I can't remember how we usually do this.
For this week, let's go from the bottom up.
Okay, I like it. We know who's at the friggin' bottom.
Yes.
Oklahoma State just lost their head coach, although maybe they move up one spot.
Just a good point.
For Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy moves out. You go, yeah, you know what? I like their
boost.
style. I like their style. I like what they're doing there. That interim they've got there, that O-line coach or whoever they're going to bring in.
Who's the Ed Orgeron at Oklahoma State that will fire them up as an interim?
I'm interested to see how that job is going to get filled and with whom it's going to be filled. It's crazy to think. But Oklahoma State, I mean, the absolute depth. They lose to Tulsa for the first time in Stillwater since 1951. People were wearing leather helmets back then. Kansas State at 15. The Wildcats thankfully had a bye this week. Otherwise, we would have been tempted to put them maybe below Oklahoma State. But they're still down there at the bottom. West Virginia, they tumble a little bit because we had them up just a couple of spots in the previous week because they had won the backyard brawl. Losing by 31 to Kansas is not a good way to kind of keep that ball rolling. I think they got humbled. I think we kind of found out that that's a little bit more along the lines of who they are there. They have the ability to maybe get an upset here and there, but, man, Kansas is a good team, and West Virginia got absolutely pummeled.
13 is Colorado, who got a good win, bounce-back win against Wyoming, but still, I think this Colorado team's got some flaws. It's interesting. I think that this Colorado team as a whole is better than last year.
Yeah.
The depth is better. But the top-end talent is clearly missing compared to what they had last year with Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. But there's good depth, I think, on this group. But I just think that the defense is having some real issues. And even giving up 20 points against Wyoming kind of seems like that was a little bit of a disappointment in some respects in a win.
We had a question on this one, but we both came to an agreement on this next team because I think we both agree they're not the number 12 team. I don't think they're going to end up at the 12th spot, although they could. But I think Baylor putting them at 12 feels right because they've lost 2 football games. They're 2-2 on the year. Yep. They're those are 2 good teams they played. Auburn beat them by 2 touchdowns, though, at home. And then in comes Arizona State, who beats them at home. That should have been one of those that they go, we can make a statement here. They didn't do it against Auburn. They didn't do it against ASU. I think they're a pretty decent football team. I even think they might be better than a couple of teams that are in front of them right now in the rankings. But they're 2-2, man, and they've lost 2 massive home games so far this year.
If we're going to, go in on the AP voters for ranking, Illinois still after giving up 60-plus points or ranking Notre Dame with 2 losses, we gotta live up to that.
They got to tumble down.
They got to tumble down after 2 losses. And also, too, it gets magnified when they're losses at home, and that's what's happened to Baylor. 11 is Cincinnati. I think, again, I feel like we like the Cincinnati team better, but I feel like that's the one program since we've been doing this show where it's just like, when are you going to have a moment in this league? Like, they just have nothing that really just, whoa, what a moment for Cincinnati. Maybe we'll get that as Big 12 play starts to settle in. 10 is UCF, and on the flip side, they had a moment this weekend taking down North Carolina and Bill Belichick. They are terrible, North Carolina. They're not in this league.
No.
But UCF is, look, 3-0. I still think they're kind of limited a little bit, and I think they'll get humbled at times in Big 12 play. But to go 3-0, I think that's a great start for Scott Frost and that team as they kind of continue to just pluck along and try to stack up wins.
Yeah, and UCF, they're in a tough spot. They lost their offensive line coach this week unexpectedly, too, at only 50 years old. And I think they're going to rally around a lot of those feelings and a lot of those things that happen. But reminds you that football is not the most important thing there. But Scott Frost right now, good start, 3-0 in version 2.0 of him. Number 9 is Arizona. And we still don't know what to think about Arizona. Like, I look, they're winning games, and I think they're tough. They have a lot to go from last year's disappointment. They keep moving up just a little by little. Houston's kind of the same way, who we have at number 8 on the list. Those are two teams who are very similar, where we're like, are they turning a corner? Have they figured some things out? I like Willie Fritz. I like Brent Brennan. I like both of those coaches. And they have talent on their teams, but the question is can they sustain whatever they've started right now at the beginning of this year?
At 7 is a 6-spot drop for the Utah Utes from number 1 to 7 after that loss to Texas Tech. Utah lands here. I think it's a combination of the loss paired up with maybe the headaches off the field. We'll see if that has any sort of carryover into the weeks ahead. But Utah at 7, I think just the teams ahead of them are, playing better right now.
Yes.
And then also, too, the way that Utah lost was just really surprising, too. I wasn't surprised that Texas Tech scored 34 points, but for Utah to end up only with 10, that shocked me.
And to do it at home and to have Kyle Whittingham afterward kind of be shaking his head. I think the thing that shocked me the most, and he said this too in his press conference this week, was in a million years I wouldn't have thought that we'd have lost the trenches. That was one thing that about this team you go, I don't know all the answers with this team, but for sure they have an amazing offensive line. That I know for sure. And then they even proved to be lacking in that game. It's insane.
And then Fano gets called for an illegal man downfield.
And a hold later in the game. I mean, he had bad penalties. He's supposed to be the best player on that dang team.
And that's just surprising because I do think personnel-wise and talent-wise, this O-line is the best that Witt's had, but you got to live up to it, and they did not in that game. Number 6 is Kansas. They thumped West Virginia. Great win coming out of a bye for the Jayhawks as maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year. 2 years ago when we started this show, they were kind of the darling in the Big 12, and everyone's like, hey, Kansas fever, and maybe this is the moment, if Jalen Daniels continues to stay healthy, that they actually contend for the Big 12. Number 5, the defending champs, Arizona State. Nice win over Baylor. They are good in close games, other than if they're in Starkville. Arizona State's chugging along.
These next two, in the order that they're in, are going to get us harassed, and that's fine. Iowa State, who's undefeated, is number 4 on the list. But again, I don't know who they are. They're coming off a bye, so we're doing what the AP poll, I think, did too, where it's like, you were inactive, all right, you get knocked down one, right, which is kind of what we saw this week. Iowa State goes to 4, and that allows BYU to go into 3. You really liked how that East Carolina game turned out. I mean, the defense is elite. The defense could be the number one defense in this entire league, and they've proven to be so far this year. But, man, they're starting to figure some things out. They can be scary if that offense starts to turn a corner. If
Bear Bachmeier plays the way he did in the second half against East Carolina, BYU can get to Arlington. Bear Bachmeier was excellent in that second half, I thought. I really thought his decision making was impressive. I think there was times against Stanford and even to a lesser extent Portland State where he maybe held on to the ball a little too long at times, kind of getting nitpicky there in those wins. That we didn't see that against East Carolina, and just felt like he took a big jump coming out of the bye week. And I think also too what helps BYU is their coaching staff. They're really aligned right now, and I think that they are all on the same page too, and they're well coached and they're not making mistakes. They did have 10 penalties against East Carolina. I think BYU is this really solid football team where they are not going to beat themselves. And that was something that was maybe a trait of BYU's teams under Kalani in the past. That's not anymore. And I think that's something that can carry week after week. And in a league that's so volatile like the Big 12, where you feel like you can never get a sense of what these teams are week after week, BYU, you kind of feel like you know what you're expecting week after week, and I think that gives them a chance to maybe have a higher floor than some of these other teams in the league. At number 2, a team we've always liked since the preseason, but they're living up to it.
Yep.
TCU at number 2.
It's hard to deny the play-calling ability of Sonny Dykes, man. That guy's got an offense. It's one thing to have a quarterback who's able to sling it. It's another one that he has a target who's becoming a superstar. When you're able to get a guy 258 yards or whatever it was through the air and 5 touchdowns, when your quarterback, who's already really good, finds a best friend on that field, it's scary because that TCU team on the offensive side of things is a really, really good team. And it's one of those teams that you don't want to – you want to miss those guys on your schedule this year because TCU is going to be on the absolute warpath. And you know what's interesting too? TCU and Texas Tech don't play one another, and that could be an absolute matchup for Arlington, and we've had TCU on this list. TCU is my dark horse to win the league before the season started. We all know Texas Tech is good, and Texas Tech is our number one team this week. Well deserving for a team who has turned a crazy corner, and I think you're going to see a single-digit ranking here in the next couple of weeks for the Red Raiders as they get rolling through the rest of the year here. That's a really legitimately good team.
It is, and Texas Tech's defensive front lived up to the hype and all the money that they got, but they've got legit talent. I think also the roster retention too, the players that they did bring back. It's just a really balanced roster for Texas Tech, and going back to TCU too. They get a win over SMU without their top running back in Kavorian Barnes, who was out with an injury that he suffered against Abilene Christian. So to get a big rivalry win without one of your key guys, I thought that was noteworthy of TCU. These two teams at the top, I think, are the most talented rosters in the Big 12. And sometimes when when you're trying to sort these Big 12 teams, you just lean to the talent. I think Tech and TCU have the most talented rosters. Maybe Colorado's got high-end talent, too, with some of their old former four-star guys, but it just doesn't seem like it's come together as quickly as Texas Tech and TCU. These two teams look really good, are going to be tough outs this season. That's our Big 12 power rankings here on First and 12 as we get ready for Week 5 action. Let's look ahead to what's on the docket for this schedule. We got some Friday night football and a busy Saturday slate. It's First and 12. Right here on KSL News Radio.
Read all the stories about BYU sports no one else has heard. Go to KSLSports.com for exclusive columns by BYU insider Mitch Harper. That's KSLSports.com.
Oh, the random coaching carousel in college football. It's weird. It's a hard landscape. It's incestuous. Just all the same retreads, or you hire a guy out of nowhere and just cross your fingers and hope that it works out. Well, Oklahoma State is going through that right now. Mitch, of course, welcome back, by the way. It's First and 12. Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry. Thanks for joining us on a Football Tuesday, as we do right here, First and 12. You can download the podcast wherever you find podcasts, but now you're going to have to deal with something. Replacing Mike Gundy, who's been at that program for 20 seasons. Like I said, he's a legend there because he played there, he's coached there, he's brought them to prominence that they didn't have before. The Bedlam series became semi-interesting over the time that he was the head coach there. Oklahoma State won multiple conference championships. They were in conversations. They were, in some years, better than Oklahoma. Actually, a lot of those, a handful of those years in there, they were better than the marquee program there in the state of Oklahoma. And that was a testament to what he was doing. He developed talent. He knew how to call offenses. They were this run and gun type deal. He was competing with these guys. He did it with a mullet. And so all of us looked, and then when he wouldn't turn the corner on the NIL stuff and the transfer portal things, we all looked around and what is going on here? But it's official. Mike Gundy is out at Oklahoma State. He had his press conference this week. He rolled out that it almost felt like, now that you look at it through the lens of he's gone today, yesterday, looking at his press conference, he's like, the landscape of college football has changed and it's different. And do we have that? I mean, let's play. Here's what he said at his press conference yesterday. Now it's almost damning after you hear what that happened, because it's almost like he knew what he was going through.
Football, as we all know, has changed in a very, very dramatic fashion, and it's really not the old college football. This is a paid game, okay? So whether I agree with it or not makes zero difference. It's like being in an argument with your wife and you know you're right. It makes zero difference. You're wrong. You might as well just get over it, give in. Things are going to be much smoother.
It's going to be much smoother because he's out of the way. I mean, that's really the reality of it. They're going to have to pay him $15 million as his buyout. I think it was going to go down to like $8 million if he would have coached. His contract was through 27, I think. They didn't have time to wait, Mitch. It's just they had to do it. The coaching carousel in the Big 12 is going to continue on here. I'm going to make a prediction for you. You ready for this?
What's that?
I haven't talked to you about this at all.
Okay.
And this is a little bit of a tangent, but it's a head coaching.
Okay.
Deal. One of the coaches that you and I both looked at, man, I don't know how long that guy's going to stay there, is Scott Satterfield at Cincinnati. Luke Fickell's having an awful go at Wisconsin. Luke Fickell will be the next Scott Frost / Rich Rodriguez. He's going to go back to Cincinnati in the next 2 seasons. Mark my word. Because Wisconsin, Barry Alvarez is not going to do it. He's not going to put up with this. I don't even know if he's still the athletic director. I think if he's not, he still pulls a lot of strings there at Wisconsin. And I think you're going to see that happen. the coaching situation is so weird. Oklahoma State needs a Kenny Dillingham. And I don't know if they're out there, but there certainly are a lot of really, really good coaches who are getting some names. Are there names that pop up in your head of guys who could be the ones to take over from Mike Gundy?
I think this is an interesting job at Oklahoma State because I feel like you got to have a bit of an offensive background at this job to kind of maintain the tradition of success that Gundy experienced in Stillwater. I look at someone like a G.J. Kinney, Texas State, brings a little bit of personality, younger. I mean, he gets good talent at Texas State and maybe can relate more to younger athletes and really embraces this roster construction era in college football. And remember, too, coaches are going to have it a little bit easier next calendar because there's only one portal now. Mm-hmm. It's only going to be in January. So the doom and gloom of the April portal, that's going to go out the window here soon. But G.J. Kinney would be interesting. Colin Klein, Kansas State offensive coordinator, Texas A&M offensive coordinator, former Kansas State great.
Yeah, he would quarterback there. Yeah.
He would be.
That's a good pull.
He'd be really good. Also, someone that was awesome at Oklahoma State, but defensive background. Never been a head coach. He's currently at Penn State. Jim Knowles.
Okay.
He was excellent. He was part of that 2021 team that won the Fiesta Bowl. They had excellent defenses at Oklahoma State during that time. And then I think everyone will throw out Alex Golish, USF, but I think he'll probably get something bigger if he leaves USF, I would imagine.
Billy Napier is going to get fired at the end of the year. Take that Florida job. Stay in Florida.
Right. I think but Golish has got ties to Gundy.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a little bit of a connection there. And then if you stay in the state of Oklahoma, what about Ben Arbuckle, Oklahoma offensive coordinator? He's flying high with the Sooners.
Well,
give him a head coach job.
His guy's John Mateer. I don't know how long John Mateer has it. And by the way, John Mateer today, as of today, best Heisman odds of anybody across the country. He's thrown, although I like the Mendoza kid out of Indiana.
Oh, yeah.
16 touchdowns and no interceptions so far this year. Heisman Mendoza, they're calling him. So we'll see how that thing works out. But again, I don't know.
It's a good job, though.
It's a phenomenal job. What do you have? You have a financial backing. They're a big Nike school. Like Nike loves Oklahoma State, and it's a program in the state of Oklahoma where the anticipated deal is you're not going head to head with Oklahoma anymore. You don't play the Bedlam series is off until further notice, right? And you're in a different conference, but you're in the Big 12, so you have the ability to go to the college football playoff. That team can go to the college football playoff. That team would have gone to the college football playoff in 2023 if it was a 12-team situation. The real question is what do you get with this? What do you get with this job? It's going to be a difficult go because the expectations are pretty high. You're replacing a guy that is a legend, and he's leaving on bad terms. I mean, that's going to be they're going to say nice things about him on his way out the door because he earned that, but they're firing him because he didn't embrace what college football is. So they've got to get a 30-something in there. They got to get the Will Hardy of college. Although Will Hardy's like an example now too. The NBA's hiring 30-somethings at head coach. The NFL's hiring 30-somethings at head coach. College football is hiring 30-somethings at head coach, and that's the way it needs to be.
That's why I think someone like a G.J. Kinney would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Age 36, he's got ties to the state of Texas, and at Oklahoma State, you got to be able to recruit Texas. And I think with Houston in the league, you can go back into Houston because they kind of abandoned Houston for a while when Texas A&M left for the SEC, and the SEC was kind of infiltrating that area. Oklahoma State's got to go recruit big in Houston. I think someone like a G.J. Kinney could do a really good job. But again, I think it's a good job. And I think that you've got to – what's challenging, though, looking ahead is who's that Boone Pickens for Oklahoma State for this next head coach? Because Gundy, when you look back on it, he feasted when Boone Pickens was letting it fly, the money.
Right.
And then he passes away, and then the program falls off a cliff. And you don't want to just chalk it up to that, but it's kind of crazy how – that kind of happened. And so, but I do believe that this is a job.
Do they have any new money?
Good.
Is there some silicone planes out there that they've got some tech money that we didn't know about?
You think about it, too. Oklahoma State's had Les Miles. They've had good coaches at Oklahoma State. They've won there. It's just they were always in the shadows of Oklahoma. You have a chance, whoever this next head coach is, to create something new at Oklahoma State and become something that you've never been before. And I think that's the beauty of this league is that everyone in this conference feels like they can be something they've never been because of the platform of this new look Big 12. And I think it was smart to do it now because now you got the necessary time to kind of get your ducks in a row. You probably bring in a search firm, and then you figure out who's going to be that next head coach to replace Mike Gundy. Let's take a break. On the other side, we'll get to what's ahead in Week 5 Big 12 football next here on First and 12.
The following is a presentation of KSL Sports. First and 12. A total roundup of BYU and Utah football and the expanded Big 12 Conference. Subscribe to the First and 12 podcast. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio.
First and 12 here on KSL News Radio. Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry with you. It's a busy week ahead in Big 12 football. Week 5, let's dive into that schedule right now.
The week ahead. Matchups that have us the most excited about the week to come in the Big 12.
Well, a couple new entrants to the top 25 for the Big 12 as they had Utah exit after their loss to Texas Tech. You have newly minted number 24 TCU. That's a Friday night matchup. Going to Arizona State, that's a freaking game right there.
It's
Mitch.
a good one.
It's a big one. And it's a Friday night, and so you got to put that one on the calendar. You got to set the alarm and say, hey, if you're watching those high school games at the same time, start monitoring that TCU Arizona State game because that's a sneaky kind of possible rematch in the Big 12 championship game type of a matchup. Arizona State, they love being at home. TCU is trying to say, hey, we're back. We won 9 games last year. We were in the national championship 2.5 years ago. We want to be back in that conversation again. And certainly the talent that comes to TCU is really, really good. And Sonny Dykes, I think, is back, and they've got some great talent. So that's going to be a fun one to watch at Arizona State. The other Friday game is Houston going to Oregon State, who is an absolute dumpster fire right now. Speaking of orange and black teams across it, if you're OSU and you are orange and black, you are a bad program right now in college football.
That is true. And imagine saying, let's say 2 years ago, that Houston would go to Oregon State and be favored by more than 2 touchdowns.
Is that what it is?
Yes. And I say that too because Houston, being in the American, look, Houston's had a good history when they were in the American. Sure. They went to some big games, but
that offense couldn't even score 2 touchdowns last year, Mitch.
But Oregon State, was a solid Pac-12 team, that's that conference affiliation being gone, and I know the Pac-12 is coming back next year.
They're
but
in the Pac-12, Mitch. How dare you?
That fell off a cliff, that program, and Houston's going to roll in there and just hammer them. Houston's going to, we'll get to our picks a little bit later, but the marquee game on Friday, no question, TCU at Arizona State, but Houston, Oregon State, get another glimpse at the Cougs from Clutch City. Saturday slate, I don't know if there's a showcase game that's really going to capture the attention and hearts and minds of the college football landscape, but there could be some intriguing matchups. Cincinnati at Kansas, 10 a.m., TNT. Let's learn some stuff about this team, like these two teams. Like that's just, to me, a game where we're going to learn some things about both of those squads.
Yeah, and at the same time, if Kansas runs away with this thing against Cincinnati, I still don't know if we'll totally know everything about them either because we don't really believe that much in Cincinnati yet. But we'll see. UCF going to Kansas State. That's going to be a test for both of these teams because UCF smells blood in the water, I'm certain. And coming off of a bye week, Mitch, does not mean what it used to anymore. Like, you come off a bye week, you could lose those games just as easily. Teams are finding themselves getting beat flat-footed after bye weeks now that you get 2 or 3. I mean, most of these teams have at least 2. In some cases 3. Does BYU have 3 bye weeks this year, or like 2 bye weeks?
K-State and Iowa State have 3.
They have 3 because they were on they had the week 0 game. So in the end, you're going to find out a lot about these 2 teams. I think Kansas State gets right again, but we'll get to that with our picks. Baylor going to Oklahoma State. There's always a weird bounce back when guys have their coaches fired, right?
There is.
I don't know if there's enough talent to make a bounce back because Baylor's like, we have to. I'm so sorry about this. Sorry for your loss. We have to beat you by 40 points to put ourselves back on the map and to feel better about ourselves.
Utah at West Virginia, 1:30 p.m. on Fox. This is the stuff of the old Pac-12 membership whores going to Morgantown, West Virginia. Remember the old Arizona State presidents like, I'm never going to Morgantown.
Oh, my.
I'm sure Utah probably never in their wildest dreams when they were in the Pac-12.
Oh, man, but
they're going to make a
this.
trip to Morgantown. But this will be I mean, this will be an interesting game to see how Utah responds after their tough loss. And for West Virginia, I think as we laid out in the power rankings, I think they're appropriately ranked. They're limited. I think we know quite a bit about this West Virginia team, honestly. They're very limited with this squad. I think that they kind of pulled it all together for that backyard brawl and almost felt like that was their season. Now going forward in the grind of the Big 12, it could get ugly for the Mountaineers. Arizona at number 14, Iowa State, 5 p.m. ESPN primetime. This one should be pretty good.
Yeah, and Iowa State has something to prove because everybody has already told them, hey, you haven't had a very tough schedule so far. It looks like Kansas State wasn't that good. You only won by 8 points at Arkansas State. What's your problem? So Iowa State's got a lot to prove, I think. When you're ranked 14th in the country, you've got to take care of business against teams like Arizona. And Arizona right now is going, we don't even know if we're that good. We believe in ourselves, but why not if you're a Wildcat fan? And then your game of the week, and certainly the latest one on a Saturday, is going to be number 25 BYU going to Colorado, a rematch of the Alamo Bowl. Two very different teams coming into this one, but playing there in Boulder, that's a fun atmosphere. You going out to Boulder for this one?
I will be. First visit to Boulder since 1981 for BYU. Kind of crazy when you think about both programs are bordering states and they've never played. So BYU and the Buffs, I'm really excited to see how this game plays out and how if BYU's success they had in the Alamo Bowl does carry over at all. But as we discussed earlier, I don't think you can really apply much from last year's Alamo Bowl to this game because the quarterbacks are different, and then a lot of key defensive personnel from both sides are gone too. These are new teams, really. They truly are. And then when you see how these games have been playing out for both teams, the key impact players are really not guys that were the difference makers a season ago. BYU, of course, has got Jack Kelly and Isaiah Glasker, who was that defensive MVP in the Alamo Bowl. He's back, and he's looking great this season. But it's a good test, and it'll be a good matchup that will probably be – it blows me away that Colorado, their interest, it's maybe not as big as it was last year, but Coach Prime still has – a massive following. People still care when Coach Prime is in action, and that will be a must-see game.
Well, they had 2 million eyeballs on the Delaware State game. Like, Colorado-Delaware State. And it wasn't even that good of a game. It was kind of a weird matchup. It was middle of the day on a Saturday. So, it's going to get attention. It always does.
And
anything
then
Coach Prime related.
This weekend, Texas Tech is the only team on bye. So all other 15 teams are in action, and then we really start to settle into the heart of conference play because we got one left non-conference game between Houston and Oregon State, and then it's on we go to Big 12 play, and it should be the fun grind to getting to Arlington this season. Let's take a break. On the other side, we'll get to our game predictions for Week 5 here on First and 12. Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry right here on KSL News Radio.
Today's just the start of the Big 12 and Power 5 talk to come. Listen to JJ and Alex Monday on your drive home. Afternoons from 3 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody. Final segment of the day on First and 12, KSL News Radio. Alex Kirry, Mitch Harper, thanks for being with us. Coming up in just a few minutes, you're going to get BYU football with head coach Kalani Sitake. It'll round off your Tuesday of football if you just heard Cougar Tracks right before this program. And then, Mitch, we've had 2 hours of lamenting Mike Gundy being gone at Oklahoma State. It's a real shame. We hardly knew ye. All right, so we're going to get into our picks for this week. Let's start this thing off. Let's get it going. Where do you want to begin things? And we'll start going back and forth.
Let's go with some Friday night games. TCU at Arizona State. This could be a banger of a game. I'm going to go with TCU. I'm going to stay with the Horned Frogs. I kind of, this might be a spot where TCU falls. In the preseason, I did pick ASU to win this game, but I'm just impressed with TCU and how they can win in a variety of ways, and their defense is still prone to give up points, but I think they're a lot better than where they've been. I'm going to go with the Horned Frogs.
I'm supposed to ride a hot hand here, and I keep dissing Arizona State and saying they're going to lose the games that they play, including last week. I thought they were going to go to Baylor and lose that game. They won it. I'm doing the same thing, though, and part of it is because I bought into TCU. This is part of my own personal pride of saying I think TCU is good enough to go to the Big 12 championship game, and I think that they've turned a corner. I also am going to pick TCU to win this one. Hopefully a barn burner shootout like we've seen the last game. I love getting the updates of scores, and it's like 41-35.
Yes.
42-41. And then somebody gets a 2-point extra converted. I start seeing these, and you start getting overtime notifications. That's what I want to see. I want to see that kind of back and forth.
I want every Big 12 game to have that.
I know.
I want, and honestly, this league does provide that. I think that's what's awesome about this conference. And maybe we could get some craziness on. Well, we're going to go into the Saturday slate. Cincinnati at Kansas. Who you got in this one in Lawrence?
I'm not dumb enough to think that Cincinnati could go into Lawrence and get the win. I'm going to go Kansas all the way. What about you, Mitch?
I'm going Cincinnati. I said earlier that
on.
we haven't had Cincinnati have a moment since we've been doing this show. It's year 3 for the Bearcats. This is their moment. They win on the road as an underdog. I'm going to go with Sorsby to get it done over Jalen Daniels. I'm going Cincinnati with the upset.
I don't hate the pick. I knew that was going to be your pick. That's why I set you up for for the disc. And who knows in this conference? I don't even know how to guess anymore. UCF going to Kansas State. I think I'm with you. I think that I think that Kansas State is going to get right on this one. When I say get right, I just mean they're probably just going to get a win at home and just kind of get out and be like, okay, there's something to build on there. I just don't think UCF has the dogs yet. I think that they are improved maybe a little bit from last year. I actually don't know if that's the case either. They're right now they're undefeated. Fine. They beat North Carolina. North Carolina might be the worst team in the Power Four. Them, Stanford, I'd love to see that battle. Somebody tweeted out today, they should have Oklahoma State and North Carolina battle to see who should never play football again. Oh, no, it was UCLA. I said throw North Carolina in there. It's kind of the same vibe. Your pick on that one.
I'm going to go with K-State as well. I think that K-State's a spiritual winless team this year, so they desperately need a win. I think they get that done against UCF. Baylor at Oklahoma State. Does Oklahoma State get a bump at all after firing Mike Gundy?
They do get a bump of.
Are they competent? Do they have proof of concept that they can actually function like a team? Because they were terrible against Tulsa.
Yeah, not in this game. Baylor they're like, sorry. Again, I think what they're going to do is do this. Sorry, we have to use you guys as a stepping stone here. Sorry for your loss. We need to kick you in the teeth. It's nothing personal. We've got to get right. They have to get to 3-2 to be taken seriously at all. And an Oklahoma State team who's like, let's go out there and show them that we still love Coach. There's some of that. There's going to be some of that. I don't care. Those kids are going to be crying, tears coming out of their face masks. I don't care. They're going to get they're going to get beat up big time in Stillwater this weekend against Baylor. I apologize for that, but that's going to happen.
I think it's Baylor too, but I'll say they're probably more worried just asking because they're probably happy to see Gundy gone. They're probably just like, I'm still getting my paycheck, right? I'm still getting my rev share check. I'm going with Baylor.
He said it's a paid game, but he made it sound like we weren't getting paid. Is that true? It's like, no.
Utah at West Virginia. It's a rematch of Rich Rod when he was at Arizona and Witt at Utah.
They probably love each other.
Rich Rod and Witt. God bless the Mountaineers and God bless the Utes. Who you got?
I think Utah gets right after this one. I mean, I'd love to see what the availability is of Devin Dampier.
Here we go.
I want to see if he's.
Wednesday at 8.
I do really want to see tomorrow night what that injury report looks like. If Whittingham's going to make another statement and a middle finger to the league and just tell Brett Yormark, here you go, every player listed as a probable, just to be able to avoid it. I think Utah's a way better football team. In the end, you saw them get beat on Saturday. That defense is still elite. It took a fourth quarter crazy effort by that backup quarterback to get 24 points in the fourth quarter. The Utah defense is still really, really good. If they clean up some of those mistakes, they should be able to roll against West Virginia.
I think this is Utah wins this one, but what will make me pause a little bit is West Virginia's had a lot of sacks this year. They didn't have any success against Kansas. They got 0 sacks last week.
Yeah. It's a tough week to try to do it because that offensive line now is hurt and offended by how they got treated this last week.
And that was the thing is that West Virginia, if they maybe had a little bit of success against Kansas, and Utah didn't get called out by their coach, the offensive line, I said maybe this could be a spot where it could be a little tricky, but I think Utah wins comfortably in this one. Arizona at Iowa State, number 14 Cyclones. I'm going with bear down Arizona
Wow.
Wildcats
Nice.
to pull off the upset. I'm a believer in Arizona's defense. I think they pull off the upset.
I don't know if I'm there yet, but I think we're going to be impressed by Arizona in an Iowa State win. I think Iowa State's going to win the game. It's going to be one where you go, and we talked about it being a defensive slugfest. I just think it's going to be a 3-point game because Arizona's going to be a better team than we thought that they were. I still think Iowa State pulls out the win at home there. Matt Campbell's going to get tested this year. I just don't think it's going to be totally against Arizona. Finally, BYU going to Colorado. Going to Boulder for the first time since 1981, as you mentioned, and the Cougs are in the top 25. Do they stay there this week?
Yes, I think BYU wins. I think they take care of business and improve to 4-0. It's kind of crazy, Alex, to see this BYU program. I mean, you and I have followed them closely for years. They used to always be the stumble out of the gates program, 1-2, 1-3. Kalani's teams just. They're always getting off these 3-0.
Third or fourth year in a row now that they're 3-0 to start the season?
Third year in a row, they're
Wow.
3-0. So they've had the ability of always getting off to strong starts, and 4-0 and 1-0 in Big 12 play would be a really nice step in the right direction with a true freshman quarterback.
Yeah.
But I go with the Cougs.
I think BYU wins this game too. And interestingly enough, I think it's nice to see whatever the progression of Bear Bachmeier is going to be. I think A-Rod called a great second half. That allowed a lot of guys to get open. Carson Ryan becoming a nice safety blanket for him is awesome. Getting Chase Roberts worked back into almost 100 yards receiving. But LJ Martin, man, that guy's good. Get him 22 carries, get him 138 yards on the ground, and that will just take so much pressure off of the kid in the backfield there. And I think BYU wins at Colorado, and you got to think the defense too. I think they're going to show up and absolutely show out against Caden Salter with that start. All right, that does it for us this week. 1st and 12. Right here on KSL News Radio, Alex, Kirry, Mitch, Harper. Our producer is Gustavo Rodriguez. We appreciate all the effort that he makes every week as well. So we will be back again next week. Let's see what drama unfolds this weekend, Mitch. If we're talking about somebody being fired after the weekend, I don't think it's going to be that dramatic. But we do this every week. Download the podcast wherever fine podcasts are found. For Mitch, I'm Alex. We'll see you then, everybody.